Welcome to the Self-Care Show with Deidre Sanford. Although holistic and alternative healing methods are becoming more and more mainstream, what method is right for you? How do you find a practitioner once you've chosen to explore an alternative therapy? Each week, Deidre will explore a different modality with practitioners who will explain their modality and the benefits they and their clients have received through their sessions. She and her guests may also offer live readings during the show. Now, your host of the Self-Care Show, Deidre Sanford.
Well, good morning and welcome to the January 25th, 2023 edition of the Self-Care Show. I am Deidre Sanford. I had to get all that stuff out of the way this morning. How is everyone? I am so excited to be here this morning, as almost always, but today I think I'm a little bit over the top. It's Wednesday. It's almost the end of January. Can you believe it? How did we even get through the first month of 2023? It's almost mind-boggling that the month is almost gone. But hey, in some respects, I'm kind of grateful to leave it in my rearview mirror and start thinking about opening the door to February, which I know if you follow the show regularly, it's kind of weird to hear me say I'm looking forward to opening the door to February because I had such a difficult time opening the door to 2023. See how attitudes change? It's kind of fun. Thanks for coming in to join us this morning. Throw some messages in that chat box for me. Let me know that you're hanging out with us this morning. And look at Facebook is doing its thing. I'm sure that whoever that is that just popped in and said good morning is somebody I know, or at least know through this show. But unfortunately, it's coming up Facebook user. So if we missed hitting those StreamYard permissions this morning, make sure you do that so I know who I'm chatting with as you guys come in today. Good morning, Eva. How are you? Hey, Lori. Thanks for clarifying from sunny Florida. You know, I'm a little bit jealous of your weather this morning, but I'm also kind of not. I've had an opportunity to do some just chatting and thinking this morning. And I love the silence of the snowfall first thing in the morning. And I know you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy, but there's just something about walking out the front door and standing in the quiet of the new fallen snow. It's almost its own, well, not almost, it is for me, its own kind of reset. Eva's coming in from Sweden. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I love that. Wonderful. I am kind of over the top this morning with gratitude. So I thought I'd take just a minute and talk a little bit about gratitude. It seemed kind of like a foreign concept to me in some ways over the years, because we all go through the roller coaster of life, right? We hit the valleys and we think, oh man, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in this dark place. How is this ever going to shift? How am I going to get out of it? And it's different points in my life I've been able to look back and be grateful for those things that had me down in the valley. And I realized also that no matter how much support that I had, how many friends reached out to help, how much support I had from my biological family and my extended family, ultimately, I had to choose to flip that switch. Hey, Debbie, and get into that attitude of gratitude that sounds so trite and cliche when you hear it. But once we have an opportunity to allow ourselves to sit back and look over different events and how they unfolded and how they shifted our lives in maybe even super subtle ways that we don't even notice, then they turn into bigger ways that we can't help but notice. That gratitude can just be permeating every corner of our lives. And if we don't give ourselves an opportunity, and I know sometimes I don't give myself the opportunity to just pause and say, wait, what am I grateful for? Or what positive shift could this really yucky feeling event be bringing to my world? Then we can miss it. Sherry, good morning. Thank you. It's always wonderful to see you. So I got thrown a curveball this morning. And it's okay. I actually didn't go into panic mode. If you've been following the events for the show, my guest this morning was going to be Amara, and we were going to be talking about mindful manifestation. And we will get an opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, Amara lives in the Gatlinburg area of Tennessee, and they've been hit with some pretty harsh storms today. So they woke up, they had no power. It's going to be a few hours before it gets restored. Usually once the power comes up, the internet goes down. And I just wish for Amara, her family, and those who are affected by this storm in her area, that they all have the opportunity to take advantage of the warm, cozy aspects of the day. My friend Amara is actually going to get an opportunity to spend more time with her kids today than she normally would. And of course, I certainly hope that everyone down there who's affected by this weather is safe. I hope they have an opportunity to understand that this yucky weather and this not happy or comfortable situation also offers some opportunities for gratitude. And that's where I'm at this morning. I am grateful for the fact that my life has grown enough that it wasn't full of panic this morning when I had to find a replacement guest, and we have found the perfect replacement guest. He's not a replacement by any means, but I'm glad he's stepping up. Had I not been given a nudge in this direction of taking on this show, where would I be? What would I be doing every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock? My life is so very different. Good morning. My life is so very different in so many very positive ways. And there are absolutely some things that are going on and hanging in the balance that are really heavy, very transformational. And we always talk about transformation doesn't feel good when you're in it. So there are certainly those aspects of my life that are in front of my face on a regular basis. But I'm choosing that attitude of gratitude this morning, and I didn't have to work very hard to find it. And that in and of itself, over the years of my life, is a really sweet place to be, because there have been times when I certainly have not been able to find that. I have lots of new connections. I have all of you who come and join me every Wednesday morning, and some of you who pop in because of my guests, and I'm grateful for that as well. It's such a fabulous experience. Yes, Sherry, please stay safe. I know that you all are experiencing worse weather than I am here in Chicagoland. Please stay safe as you're out and about today, everybody. So full circle, right? New gratitude shift. I have this new network of friends. And some of them I've never met on a one-on-one, face-to-face literal basis. Some of them I only ever see through the lens of this camera. But they're friends nonetheless. There are some ties that have been created in my life that I never dreamed would happen. So I'm exceptionally grateful for all of you for continuing to make this show possible, and really, truly, doubly, triply grateful for today's guest, Todd Bates. Many of you already know Todd through his show, Haunted Voices, that he works with Nicole Strickland on Friday nights at 10 p.m. right here on WLTK-DB. So much more to Todd than just sitting back there running the controls of this show. And he's not just the station owner. He's not just typically the producer of this show and many, many other shows on this network, but he's also a paranormal investigator. He's had a long career in broadcasting in different capacities, broadcasting as we know it today as well. He's also an author. He released his book. Wait, let me get it tipped just right. A Haunted Voice. And I finally had an opportunity to sit down and read this book on a very dark, very difficult day of my life. I was held captive on an airplane. And by the time I was done reading this book, gratitude. Gratitude to Todd for sharing his story. Gratitude for his allowing us to see a little further into his mind and his heart and into the events of his life that have shaped the person that he is now. So I'm super, super excited to be able to share Todd with all of you today. Todd, come on out here and show us your face. Hey,
Good morning.
I get to see you almost every Wednesday morning, and I miss you when I don't get to see you. Mike is a fabulous friend now as well, but you are well missed when I don't get to see you. Hi.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And yeah, Mike's doing an amazing job around the station, helping out. Oh my goodness.
I'm
It's
grateful
such
for
a
you
weight
that you
lifted
have the
off.
opportunity.
Yeah, I get to do fun stuff like this sometimes. I like it.
Yay. So it's Wednesday morning. There's ice and snow on the ground where you are. What are you grateful for this morning, Todd?
Warmth. I am grateful for warmth.
Right? Sometimes it's the simple things.
And I I pray that Sherry gets to work okay because I'm worried about the roads. It's terrible out there. There's a lot of ice and snow, but my goodness, all we can do is just keep drudging forward, no matter how small the steps are, just make the steps.
Right. Hey, Shelby, thanks for coming in this morning. I am super, super curious as I'm hoping everybody who's joined us today is tell us a little bit more about what prompted you, not a little bit more, but tell us about what prompted you to put pen to paper and share your amazing story with us.
Sure, absolutely. That was tough. It was probably the hardest decision of my life
Can't imagine.
to do this. And you're talking about gratitude, and I'm grateful for being able to do this as well because it completely changed my life. This book, I'd been carrying it around for a long time on writing it and getting the story out. And for the past year, I've kept it quiet.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell Sherry. I mean,
You didn't even tell Sherry?
because I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it. And I had to take everything that was in my past that haunted me and sum it up.
Yeah,
And that was tough. It
I'll
was,
bet.
I sat, there was many times I sat here just in the quiet trying to recall the order because what I do, and it's not a gift at all. It's actually a curse. I was taught this, and I had taken many anger management courses over my life. And one of the things they taught me how to do, there were two great things I took from it. One was listen to the Beatles, one album when you're upset.
Yeah.
Two was to sever it, cut
Yeah.
it, cut the cord. And I did that with my past is I cut it, and I still do. Um, it was tough to sit down and do it. But then once I started, everything just flowed. It was supposed to come out that way. And I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. The editors, whoa, slow down. No, I can't stop. And, and it was, I sent page after page after page after page, chapters. All this was just coming out. And then lo and behold, there's the story.
Yeah.
There it is in a book form. And I read that manuscript ebook.
Mhm.
Tears. Wow. I did I say that? Oh my goodness. And all of the dark times came out in the book.
Mhm.
All of my dark secrets came out in that
Yeah.
book. Everything that happened to me to lead me where I am today came out in that book. And it was the most freeing experience that I've ever had. It was as if God himself came down and just reached, boom, pulled that off that shoulder, this off
Yeah.
that shoulder. And everything is just crystal clear. Um, and it's tough to put my life out there like that. One of the things that I was thinking of, people are going to think I'm weak. They're going to think I'm vulnerable. I'm getting, all these things are going through your mind when you're doing something like this. And then it's like, no, this is me. This is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't like it, well, they can shut the book.
Right. You don't have to read the whole
they don't
thing.
have to read it. But it went through some really dark times in my life. Prior to broadcasting, prior to paranormal investigation, and what led me into the field. And that's where the dead stop came. That's where
Mm-hmm.
self-care comes in.
Yeah.
Is I obsessed so much on other things, the paranormal, broadcasting, all of the above, that I wasn't taking care of myself.
Right.
So one of the big remedies for me wasn't a remedy, it was another curse, was I would come home from an investigation, for example, go over evidence, come up with no, hey Pete, come up with no answers whatsoever, and I would drink to calm down.
Yeah.
And at first it was, a couple, okay, I'm good. Then you have to have more and more and more.
Yeah.
And more and more and more. And then next thing you know, there's a problem. Yeah. And that was the problem I hit. In the book, I talk about me being bipolar as well. It is a curse, but it's also a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that puts me in a mindset to where self-care comes in. When let's see how to phrase this. When I'm in a dark spot. Thanks, Casey. That's adorable. When I'm in a dark spot like that, I have to constantly pull myself out. Mm-hmm. Whether it be sunlight, whether it be music, whether it be any, I need a distraction.
Yep.
I need to remain busy. If not, I will not take care of self. I will take care of everything else. I will let it consume me. And the book and facing it put me in the state of mind to where now it's not so bad. Right. It's not as hard to overcome a dark spot or an overwhelming day or, just crazy chaos going on. I used to be afraid of it. I used to fear busyness, chaos, success. I was the biggest. Success scared me more than anything, and I would always find a way to sabotage it. Yeah. When I found myself snowballing, I'd find a way to pick up that snowball and just throw it.
Yep.
So the book woke me up, and like you said, it put those feelings, everything on paper for hopefully everyone to read and relate to. We all have problems. We all have huge problems out there. And this was just my way of dealing with them. Mm-hmm. But the field consumed me. The paranormal field absolutely consumed me to the point where I had to retire so I didn't go back to that. Now I'm getting my feet wet thanks to my love, Sherry. Yay. I'm getting my feet wet back out there and doing more with the field, but approaching it with a different attitude. This is a hobby. The paranormal is a hobby to me. And I have to look at it that way. I was looking at it. It was a career. I was going around. I was speaking in different locations. I was teaching classes, and it was my life. It's what I did. I had to regroup and focus. That is a hobby, and that mindset's there now to where, okay, I'm going to go out to this location. I'm going to do some recording. I'm going to come back, listen to some evidence. Then I'm going to reflect, and I'm going to dissect it. I'm going to debrief myself. These are things I do to get it out of my head
Sure.
so I don't obsess with it.
Well, would you say that back in the day, there's a potential that in addition to alcohol, um, paranormal may have been, subconsciously or not, a way for you to distract yourself from yourself?
Ooh. Oh, you nailed it. Yes.
It's a good hiding place. I mean, the history, right? The unknown facts of the investigation that turn into rabbit holes. Um, the physical responses, the emotional responses to the events that we happen to trip over or walk into as we're going through an investigation. Fully, very distracting, very intriguing, right? Because we want to understand. That's our natural instinct as human beings, in many cases, to just be curious. And the
Hmm.
curiosity is great, but again, it's a rabbit hole. So I think I can understand that paranormal investigation to you, based on what you were saying, was almost its own drug.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now you're looking at it in a more healthy way because you gave yourself the opportunity to dive into this book. And really, by doing that, what you did was take a deep dive into your relationship with yourself, right?
Wow.
And you
I,
threw it all on paper for us to see.
yes. I never really thought of it that way. The
Really?
paranormal was my drug of choice. That's a great way of putting it. It was a something for me to dive into, um, to forget about all of that time when I was locked in that dark cell, and I
Yeah.
had all this time in the world to think about what I had done. How could I have done it better? And that plays over and over and over in your head. Um, I read medical books. I don't know why, but
Why
that's what I
not?
did. I read medical books,
Do you
and
find that maybe on the back end, now that you've mentioned the medical books, which I hadn't heard before, do you find that that might sometimes come in handy as a point of reference as you're looking at some of these new investigations and learning the histories and stories of the people associated with the events or places?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it taught me about myself. I read about my
Yeah.
condition and how I could combat it because it was being bipolar, um, with an addictive personality. I can get addicted to anything really.
Sure.
Um, it takes discipline to
Hmm.
switch from that mindset.
Which comes first, the self awareness or the discipline?
Self awareness.
Okay.
It would have
I'm
to.
curious because we can choose one or the other consciously. But I think as you're speaking, I'm thinking through some of this, and I think maybe sometimes those two things go hand in hand, the distraction and the self-awareness, because you
Mhm.
kind of have to have the distraction to develop the self-awareness. But at the same time, without the self-awareness, you're not aware that it's a distraction.
Right.
It's interesting.
Exactly. And it's those distractions that sometimes get you into a little trouble, but a lot of times bring you out of it.
Yeah.
Um, I find myself, I call them bipolar moments. I try to see them in time and stop them in time.
Uh-huh.
When I'm talking to people, especially Sherry, you always hurt the ones you love, they say. And a lot of times these things will just blah, 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 out of my mouth, and I don't even know what in the world I'm saying.
I understand that. Yeah.
And then next thing you know, there's hurt, and I'm like, "Oh, what
Yeah.
did I do? What did I?" That was that, and it's hard to to stop yourself in that
Yeah.
situation because you're saying something, but you don't really know what you're saying, and I'm learning to stop and think before I speak.
It's almost that stream of conscious verbal vomiting during which we unburden things that we don't realize we're carrying,
Mhm.
or we have the opportunity to yes, injure other people completely without intention, but also to hear ourselves think through a process or feel through a process and learn even more about ourselves as we're doing that. And yeah, no, I understand what you're saying about injuring other people just by running off and emptying our heads or
Mhm.
emptying our hearts. But we choose to share that with those who are closest to us. And yeah, you're right. I hear you. It's never designed to injure.
Yeah, and it's sad sometimes, but I don't wish this on anyone, but that time that I spent in prison was when I really found myself. I recommend people to sit with
Yeah.
nothing else around them. Put yourself in a room and just imagine that door is locked. You want to get out, but you can't open it. No matter what you do, you can't open it. And that put me in this seclusion to where all I could do was think. There was nothing else to do
Yeah.
but think. And when you're alone like that and almost in a meditative state, because you have to find some way to calm yourself down because you're so anxious because you're in a room and you can't get out.
Vicious.
It's just it does. It drives you nuts, and I don't wish that on anyone. I mean, I would do it all over again. I did this for my family. I would do it all over again. Don't get me wrong. Um, but sitting there and then knowing that every part of you is being watched in a camera, your constant surveillance 24/7. They're looking to make sure I don't escape because I worked corrections before this.
Mhm.
So I had some training to get out of certain cell doors. These I had to be put under the big lock and key, the old dungeon door, I called it. And it was horrible. I mean, you hear that sound and it hits home and you wake up. You don't have a choice but to wake up. And that's when I dug deep, hit my rock bottom. I couldn't get any lower than that.
Yeah.
And I started to slowly swim to the surface. I would find things to distract me, sometimes some things to entertain my mind. It's not like I could just walk over and turn on the radio
Right.
or pick up the phone and call somebody. I had to entertain my mind. And, I'm playing music in there in my mind. There's lots of things you do. And so the point of that is for people to take a moment
Yeah.
and sit quietly. Picture yourself in an area where you can't get out, but you have to think. You have to occupy your mind, build the strength, and know that it's not going to last forever. Whatever you're going through, however bad it is, however bad you think it is, it's happening for a reason. I was put in there for a reason. And that reason made me who I am today, and I'm grateful for it. Um, I learned a great deal about myself, about other people,
Mhm.
about my condition, so many things. And so it's not the end of the world. Sure, I was lonely in there, but I had friends in here. Sometimes I would answer them.
Speaking of haunted voices,
You get a little lonely in there.
that time of self-reflection is something that I, as listeners, I think we can relate to in the respect that we have the option of whether we're going to give ourselves that self-reflective time or not. We can still choose to, and you did to an extent too, distract ourselves from those thoughts. But sometimes, especially those times that feel like our deepest, darkest times, are the most difficult times to consciously choose to sit down, marinate in it, and just be with ourselves. But sometimes that's exactly what it takes to get us out of our situations. Hopefully, the rest of us can do this in smaller doses. But we get what we need, right? I mean, it's horrifying. I mean, I know who you are now, or I know you now. I'm learning more about who you are. It's horrifying to me that you needed to go through that experience and in some ways give yourself that experience, which sounds bizarre, but I think you understand what I mean, in order to find your way out, to find that pathway to being able to make different decisions, different choices is what I'm looking for yourself as you move forward.
I had to change.
What an amazing, and beautiful life you've created for yourself.
Thank you. I had to change. There was the old me that was desensitized as a corrections officer, completely desensitized. Had no, I just, pardon my French, but I was just a prick. That's what I was. Back then, you probably wouldn't have given me the time of day. And I probably wouldn't have given you the time of day, Deidre. I was just like that.
Yeah.
And going through what I went through woke me up and completely changed me as a person. That, and of course, rehab, where they take you all the way down and build you back up. Yeah. I had to go through that. Some people have to go through that to change, but everybody can change.
I want to suggest a thought to you, because I heard what you just said. The person I am. But what if, and I think, Casey, based on some things you've said, you're going to hear this as well. What if I suggested to you that you were always this amazing, wonderful, caring, giving, very open, loving person in the first place, but through circumstance, you had to learn, and through training for your job, you had to learn to put all those shields in place and mask and hide all of that. I feel like for my personal journey, because I went down the addiction path as well, on this side of that path, I can say that part of what I was doing was masking that very vulnerable, very raw person from additional harm, additional, bullying, abuse, toxicity. I had to learn to develop, we'll just say, my own inner prick in order to prevent that. I just kind of had to put it in a little box and hide it away. And then I had to become this other person to mask all of that.
Yeah.
At least just for a time.
That makes so much sense.
I'm kind of feeling like that might be a really great time for us to grab a station break. Everybody take a moment to think, because we all go through these patterns in different extremes. Yes, using defect protection. Got it. Good job, Casey. I hear what you're saying.
I like it.
Let's take a station break real quick. Take a moment, grab your tissues, reset, reframe, because we're going on to much more exciting stuff. Todd Bates, thank you so much. Not only did you put all of this in your book, woo, there it is, but you've chosen to come and share all of that on this very open platform.
My pleasure.
Thank you. We're going to...
The Body Code is a revolutionary method of energetic healing developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson, which allows us to quickly and easily identify specific imbalances that seem to underline chronic ill health, acute and chronic pain and discomfort, dysfunction, and stress. Ellie energetically connects with the subconscious of the client. Psychic medium Ellie Weisensell is a medical intuitive and energy healer and a certified body code practitioner. She identifies and clears energetic imbalances within the body and energy field. Contact Ellie at the website below, and Ellie can work remotely from a distance, by phone, online, video chat. There's no need to travel to an office. Remember, the body code is safe for humans and animals. Contact Ellie today.
Woo, and we're back. Wow. Good morning and welcome once again to the Self-Care Show. I'm your host, Deidre Sanford, and we're here on WLTK-DB this morning talking with station owner, producer, paranormal investigator, all-around great guy, fabulous husband, family guy, and author of The Haunted Voice, Todd Bates.
Wow.
Wow, you just took yourself on quite an amazing trip and you shared it right here live with all of us. Guys, we're talking a little bit with Todd. We've been talking with Todd about his past and how he designed his future through his previous experiences. Sitting, marinating in thought processes, emotions, some of which were very, very heavy and difficult to look at. We're also talking about gratitude today. And on some level, Todd, I think as perverse as this may feel, I think what you have said to us this morning is that you've been able to come to a place of gratitude now, and sooner than just this moment, of course, for all of these experiences of your past that made you remember maybe who you really are at a soul level and be more able to step into this amazing future that you're creating and have created for yourself to this point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gratitude. My goodness. When I was taught that, and I
Yeah.
thank rehabilitation for that.
Yeah.
My goodness, I went to an amazing one.
Good.
And they taught, after they completely take you down to your core and then build you back up. I wish that level of counseling was given to more people.
Mhm.
I think it would really help them. Not necessarily if you're an alcoholic or addict or what have you, just to anyone.
Yeah. Anyone.
It's a wake-up call, and it chips away at your soul
Mm-hmm.
and kind of covers it just kind of covers you, and it covered me in this warm pink blanket. And
Oh, no, I love pink blankets. I get it.
was safe, I was warm. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think about using again, or I mean, anybody that says that needs to check, because you always have to keep in check with yourself. You always have to, you're always going to be brought to these different situations. You're always going to be presented. You're always going to be tempted.
Right. That's life.
Yes, that is life. And it's my past that I connect with. When I am tempted, I think back. No. And it's an instant.
Right. Every once in a while, and it happens so infrequently now because I've been clean for over 20 years. But every once in a while, the thought will enter my mind. But the thought enters my mind from the perspective of, holy shit, I'm glad I'm glad I'm done with that. And I don't want to go back. And then it immediately shifts back to gratitude for the work that I did to do it. And I commend you for making the choice to participate in your rehab option, in your rehab experience. I didn't choose to go through a rehab process. I did have a psychologist that I worked with, or psychiatrist, whichever way that works. But mostly I did it on my own.
Wow.
I gotta tell you, we all have fall off the wagon moments.
Mhm.
It's life. It's part of the process. And sometimes we just need to drop back into it to remember how much it sucked to be there and take ourselves back out.
Mhm.
And those are I think those are almost, for me, they were darker days than the days in which I was continuously actively using.
Yes.
just the self recrimination for having made that one moment decision and then coping with the aftermath of it. But the gratitude for the opportunity, no matter how we created it for ourselves, mine was a head-on car accident, head-on collision in the dead of winter in 40-degree below weather, zero in Chicagoland. Yeah, that was my wake-up call. And then the phone call to the family, not just about the accident, but a couple weeks into recovery from the accident, which took years and 2 surgeries, was I'm an addict.
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed to have a family that wanted to support my recovery. And they did it without enabling, boy, let me tell you. But
Tough.
we get there the way we need to get there. Every person's situation is unique. But the beautiful thing is that we all have tools or can all find tools that help us find our way out, whether it's with a situation such as yours in rehab or trying to climb that hill by myself with claws. And it's not to say that you're not using claws in rehab. Certainly hard work, no matter how you look at it.
They're
So
not
what
as sharp.
are different. What?
They're not as sharp as when you're doing it on your own. That's a
Right.
deep dig.
So you've talked about your paranormal investigation. You've talked about your amazing recovery and your journey back to self. How would you talk with someone? Let's say, okay, for example, me, right? I've
Mhm.
done a few paranormal investigations. Some of them were very professionally led. Some of them were not. You kind of gave us the warning about um, the self-care aspect from
Yeah.
keeping yourself from being completely sucked into investigation. But how would you protect yourself at this point? What tools would you offer? What ideas would you suggest to people like me who are looking to like fully dive back into this as a hobby
Yes.
and keep themselves from, I don't know, say bringing things home that they don't want to maybe bring home, or picking things up before they actually go on that investigation?
Which all of that is completely possible. It
Yeah.
is, it's a mindset going in. I use prayer
Mhm.
to protect myself. Um, Sherry knows, and she kind of chuckled the first time I did it, but I say out loud for them to stay there. They're not welcome to
Yeah.
come back. This is where
Yeah.
they belong. Um, you have to avoid the human curiosity and obsession.
Mhm.
You have to understand that there may or may not be an answer for life after death. Right now, I don't think we're supposed to find out. I don't think we're supposed to know. I fought with this for years. I sat down with priests. They said my curiosity is completely normal. There is an afterlife, son. He is, and they go into their whole spiel.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, but it didn't happen that way. This is what happened. Is this
Mhm.
okay for me to sit here and think about um, the afterlife? Is it against my religion? Is it? And that's when I guess I turned more spiritualist than any
Mhm.
organized religion. I started thinking more on that aspect, and that helped me grasp and not become as obsessed because I know. I know there's something there now.
Sure.
I know. I mean, I was skeptical before all this. I didn't believe any of this. I believed in life on other planets and so forth. But ghosts, no way. Uh-uh. And then when
Until
you're
you saw one.
yes, until you have that experience yourself, and I think that's what started the obsession for me. Was not knowing, not
Yeah.
having, and I still don't have any
Right.
answers. I don't have a definite answer, but I have seen a ghost, so I know that there's something there. And if I leave this world and become some residual man somewhere, that's fine too. I'll be residual man.
That's a great Halloween costume. What are you residual, man?
But it's it was a fun ride. It was
Yeah.
a really fun ride
until it wasn't.
and to learn about the afterlife and to have them communicate with you intelligently.
Right.
I've got some captures where they actually interact,
Yeah.
and that just dives you in deeper. But yet,
Yeah.
all I can stress to any new investigators, anybody coming into this field, is take your time. Take your time, use common sense, latch on to a veteran, find one. There are
Yeah.
tons of them out there. Latch on to a veteran, have them guide you, have them teach you, um, and just get out there, do the legwork. It's not like a television show
No.
where 4 hours you're out. This could take days. The work can be very, very boring, very, very boring.
Yeah. I'm laughing at that only because I know you sit in the same room with the lights off, afraid to move because whatever movement you make is going to get picked up on the mic. And if you do move, you need to identify it verbally for the record on the tape. But you're sitting there in the dark for 2 hours and you get an itch on your shoulder. Oh, wait, was that an itch or was that, did I get touched? You have to kind of vibe your way through some of this stuff. And that was a very simplistic explanation, but
You do.
yeah,
You do because it can get the best of you, if
yeah,
you don't. I've seen full-blown skeptics. I there was a tour. This guy didn't believe in believing. Nothing. And he was touched. And I said, "Now that could have been." He says, "No, no, no, no." He said,
you
"That was
know,
an old cold hand
yeah.
that touched his shoulder, and that changed his life forever."
Oh, yeah.
Because once something happens, once you're out there in this field and you come across something you can't explain, it's stuck. You'll
Yep.
never forget it. It's a personal experience that's supposed to be given to you. That's why
Yeah.
some people will see an apparition, full bodied, like just like I'm looking at you.
Hmm.
Some won't until it's their time.
Yep.
When it's their time, odds are you're going to see it. Someone next to you, standing right next to you, won't see it
Right.
because it was just meant for you.
Absolutely.
Luckily, the one I saw, all three of us saw, so it kind of helped my sanity because I was really questioning it back
That's
then.
amazing that all three of you were able to see it.
It was collective. It was pretty amazing. It
I
was
mean, my mom showed up hours after she transitioned. Just, I mean, really, at this point, I can look back at it and say, hey, she was letting me know she got there safely wherever there is. She was happy and doing okay. My grandfather, just his face appeared in my bathroom window one evening, and I learned within 24 hours that his wife had passed.
mm,
He was kind of coming to warn me, I think, or to say, hey, I'm welcoming grandma home. For me, they've always appeared with purpose. Most recently, I had a friend who, unbeknownst to most of us, had passed but hadn't yet been found. And he showed up to me the morning I was headed to his home to check in on with him. And I check in on him. And I kind of knew I was going to have to make that 911 well-being check phone call when I got there. He showed up like behind glass, knocking on the glass. Um, there's a reason for all of it, absolutely. And I think it also kind of takes us back to the statement, as we see, so shall we believe, which can easily be flipped to, as we believe, so shall we see.
it could go both ways.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's a debate statement right there. Stephanie from Chat with Charlie, right here on WLTK-DB on Thursday mornings at 9 a.m., popped in with a great question as she does some investigation. She's an amazing medium. She said, how do you find a reputable group?
Mm,
Because she said in the beginning, it was hard for her to make connections. So I wanted to
sure.
throw that out there and make sure we highlighted that. That's a great question, Steph. Thank you.
That is a good question, and it's tough. There's a lot of them out there now. A lot of them are fly by night. Um, be weary.
Always.
Educate yourself. What you want to look for with a group, you want one that's been established for at least 5 years. If you're going to get a team into your home, You want one that's been established for a while, especially for a residential investigation.
Yeah. You do it wrong, you stir it up more.
There's been some that they've been around 20, 30 years. They're out there. Latch on to one of those, have them refer. A lot of these older research teams have plenty of referrals. They have been there, done that. They have a lot of people contacting them about hauntings and so forth. Talk to one of them, have one of them refer out. Hey, you live in Wisconsin. We have this group and this group there. We trust this group. This group works well. That's one way to do it. Do your own research. Do they have an established website? Do they have evidence on their website? Read their mission statement. What are they doing this for? Are they doing this for fun? Are they enthusiasts? Are they avid researchers? Are they parapsychologists? Do your homework. And just because they don't have a website doesn't mean they're not a good investigation team either.
Truth.
There are a lot of great teams. Websites are expensive. Some people, they're bulky, they're hard to manage. Some just run through Facebook. Again, read when they were established. Read some of their investigations, how they handled them, and take it to heart. Their mission statement, their objective. Why are they doing this? Yeah. If they say we are we're paranormal enthusiasts, okay, I'm not saying that's a red flag, but an enthusiast is not one that you want to come to your home to research a haunting. You want an established team, not that, you're not going to go out there. Okay, well, how much equipment do you have? You need this.
Yeah.
Common sense.
Pointing in his head. Yes, common sense. Yeah. Well, it ain't so common anymore, as they say, So just be aware. Ask questions.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
See what their thoughts are. See if I personally would ask what their intention is when they go in. What do you want out of your time in my home, if that's what I'm calling for as a residential investigation? What do you want out of your time in my home? And I would think then, Todd, that if you're interested in doing investigation and opening yourself up during these kinds of visits to places, that you would want to ask very similar questions. Would that be true?
Yes, you would want to ask very similar questions. A new researcher going in, it goes both ways. Yeah. Some teams won't do residential investigations because of the dangers. So the homeowner has to realize that as well, that some teams, for safety reasons, they may ask questions. Do you own firearms?
Yeah, right.
Are you on any medications? These are important questions that you want to ask the homeowner, and the homeowner is going to be asking questions as well. Yeah. How long have you been doing this? Have you ever come across any kind of spirit like this, any kind of poltergeist situation like this? You're going to be asked questions too, so be prepared. So it goes both ways. And then finally you have the interview, and everything, it just works out the way it should. You do your interview, you go in, you establish a relationship with not only the homeowner, but the spirits within there. Yeah. You don't want to rock the boat while you're in there. Don't stir things up and leave. That is a problem that happens a lot.
No. Yeah.
People will go in, the place is haunted. They ask a bunch of questions. They throw a bunch of things around. They bring out a bunch of equipment, bells and whistles. They piss everything off.
Right. They all freak out. Yeah.
Okay, it's midnight. We got to go. We'll be back on Tuesday for the reveal.
And you deal with whatever happens after this between now and then. No, that's
you've got to help that homeowner. I mean, if you've got to counsel them almost. Yeah. Because they don't know what's going on. That's why they called you.
Right.
So you have to, explain why this is happening.
You want somebody that's going to come in and try to help make some sense of things, if that can be done, and help bring peace to the situation. I know the house I lived in Springdale, as soon as they walked in, they were very aware of some things happening in the house. They looked at me and they said, "Hey, did you tell them that we're coming and why we're here?" And at that time, I was like scared about the whole thing. I'm like, "Well, no, it never occurred." Okay, well, we need you to go sit down in the back and tell them who we are, why we're here, and just kind of let them fill them in on what's going on here. And they didn't have equipment per se. Tools. One of the investigators had dowsing rods in his hands, and he started walking from the living room down the hallway to the back of the house. And all of a sudden, at once, those dowsing rods split completely apart so quickly and with such force that they flew out of his hands, bounced off the walls, and clattered on the floor. And everybody just kind of looked at each other like, I think it was at that point they asked me to sit down and talk to the spirits in the house.
Dowsing rods are excellent.
I'm going to push that producer button, Todd. It is 10:57. We normally want to wrap a little bit earlier than this. So I wanted to check in with you and see how we're doing for time. Technically, we should be wrapping up. It's entirely up to the production team here at WLTK-DB.
We'll go with your flow. Don't worry. We can wrap her up.
I just wanted to double check because I am enjoying so much having this opportunity to chat with you, to share your stories with everybody who's plugged in today, listening to us. Casey, you've been amazing with all of your comments. Amazing. Sherry as well, of course. Stephanie, thank you for popping in to visit with us. I truly appreciate all of you for being here. Shelby, Eva coming in from Sweden. That's amazing.
Wow.
And of course, Debbie as well. Thanks, everybody, for coming in and spending time with us today and getting to know Mr. Todd Bates just a little bit more. If you haven't already, pop over to, the Facebook page, probably also the website. Go over to Amazon.com and pick up a copy of, I can't get my angle right, The Haunted
Voice
mirrored
stuff
by Todd Bates. You can find out in the cover, between the covers of this book, exactly what happened that landed Todd's butt in jail and gave him the opportunity for all that self-reflection and the forward progress, and what enabled him to find that person that he had buried deep inside that truly was a part of him all along, and bring it forward and share it with us today. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
And it is. It's a big wow. And I can't thank you enough. I had such an amazing time. I feel great.
Yay!
I feel like I got even more out, Deidre.
Woo-hoo!
So this is excellent.
You're amazing.
This is excellent.
Todd.
Very therapeutic. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm glad that could happen for you today. You never know what's going to happen when we open the mics on these shows and start chit-chatting back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's absolutely a pleasure to have had the opportunity to talk with you today. Thank you so much for coming to join us. Gang, that's going to do it for this week's edition of The Self-Care Show. I am your host, Deidre Sanford. Stick around or come back in later this afternoon when this station comes back to life. I believe it's 3 p.m. this afternoon with Kelly Brickle. Have a fantastic rest of the day, y'all. Stay safe, stay warm wherever you are.
Bye, everybody.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.